I'm going to be talking about a viewer question that I've got here from Sharon. She says, if I were in any more of a calorie deficit, I would disappear. It certainly didn't work for me. The only thing that worked for me was 16/8 fasting. Now that's stopped working, and I'm going to be talking about why fasting might have stopped working, or it doesn't even work in the first place. Hello fam, and welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Neal, and this channel is all about helping you if you're a woman over 40 or like me over 50 get in amazing shape. And intermittent fasting or any kind of fasting is kind of the holy grail of weight loss, isn't it? If we restrict the time we eat, we're going to get amazing results, right? Well, as you can see from that viewer question, and it was a little bit about a calorie deficit as well, which I'm going to go into in this video, it actually doesn't always work. And some of the comments that I see from women, they're kind of saying it just like Sharon, it did work at first, then it stopped working. And some women that come to me, and I was in this category, it actually doesn't work at all. I'm going to be talking about why, but first of all, I'm going to talk about what it actually is. So, intermittent fasting is time restricted eating. So, it's when you have a window of eating, and it's usually shorter than the regular window of eating you would have. So normally you get up and you have breakfast, then you eat through the day and into the evening, don't you? And intermittent fasting is when you restrict the time that you're going to spend eating. 16/8 is a really popular one, and that's when you have an 8-hour window of eating. But you can have a 6-hour window, 2-hour window, or you can just eat every 24 hours. And what should happen is nothing but water and coffee, that kind of thing. Coffee without milk or without creamer, teas without milk should pass your lips. So you're not actually taking in any calories whatsoever during the time that you're fasting. So what are the pros of fasting? Well, the pros of fasting are it's really easy to implement, because actually you're not changing what you eat, you're changing when you eat. So it's really easy to implement. It's also really easy to start controlling food. So some people find with calorie restriction, they actually find it really hard to control, but they can control their food if they know, oh, I can only eat at certain times, and then the rest of the time you're kind of conditioned into not thinking about food, which that can be quite a good thing for some people, because really we don't want to be eating all the time if our goal is weight loss. So if we're restricting when we eat, that makes it easy for us to just kind of think, actually I'm not going to eat that because it's not my time to eat. So that's another benefit. Another benefit is you might just not be hungry for things like breakfast anyway. And so, you know, skipping breakfast is kind of like an intermittent fasting. It's a time restricted eating, isn't it? So intermittent fasting is great for people that don't like eating breakfast, or maybe you just don't like eating your evening meal, for example, because that's going to restrict the time that you eat. And it could be something that helps you manage your relationship with food as well. However, some people, and I was one of these people, it made my relationship with food a little bit worse actually. So it just depends person by person. What's the difference between intermittent fasting and calorie restriction? Well, in actual fact, when we're talking about weight loss, and I'm not talking about the health benefits or anything like that, I'm just purely talking about weight loss, there's actually no difference. So in the scientific studies, when they've compared people that do intermittent fasting and standard calorie restriction, there is no difference in the outcome. Both groups of people in a lot of these studies have tended to lose weight, because actually what's happening with intermittent fasting is naturally you're going to be restricting your calories anyway. And what I would say, specifically for women over 40, there is no scientific evidence that it actually works for weight loss. There's no science to support this. Now, I'm going to talk about my own experience with intermittent fasting. I did it for 18 months. I started off with a 16-8 protocol. And what I found as I got into it is, the results, I wasn't really seeing any significant change in my body. So what I did is I kept shortening my eating window until I was in actual fact eating 1 meal a day. That's actually known as OMAD, 1 meal a day, or 24-hour fasting. And now I'm going to put a picture up here. This is the result I got from it. And what I would say through my own experience is I experienced weight loss, but I didn't experience fat loss. And so that's where a significant difference comes in. And fat loss is actually, for me, about losing fat, but not losing muscle. And there's a key difference. And so what I would say, and I'm going to go on to talk about why, is intermittent fasting is not that great for losing fat and building muscle. And that's kind of what my whole ethos and my whole premise around women over 40 and women around the time of menopause achieving great results with fat loss is actually building muscle and losing fat all at the same time. And you can see with that picture, I was losing fat, but I was also probably losing muscle as well. And so what happened is I retained a ton of fat and actually got a bigger midsection than when I started. My actual midsection got worse. And what I would say to add to this is I believe that extreme fasting doesn't really work for women over 40. 16-8, the jury's still out for me. I get as many women commenting on my content saying it hasn't worked as it has worked. And what I will tell you, I get hundreds, if not thousands of women approach me personally, and they've told me that it hasn't worked for them, or it did work, but it stopped working. And I'm going to go into the reasons why it may have stopped working for you. So the first reason why I'm going to talk about intermittent fasting may have stopped working for you, or maybe it didn't work in the first place, is because it doesn't support building muscle. Because if you're going to starve yourself, particularly like 24-hour fasting, having a very small eating window, like 4-hour eating windows, you are not going to be getting in enough protein, that's 1 gram of protein per pound in body weight, to support muscle building. You are also not going to be consuming enough calories through the day to support muscle building and support like strength training, which is what I was trying to do. I was trying to strength train on an intermittent fasting regime. And particularly if you're fasting and you're fasting before your strength training, so you're going strength training on an empty stomach, which is what I did, and you're not consuming protein and carbs before strength training and after strength training, so you're not getting muscle protein synthesis after strength training, and you're not fueling your body for performance in your gym, whether it's the home gym or an actual gym, what you will find is it's nigh on impossible to build muscle. And women over 40, we want to be building muscle because that's the thing that's going to improve our metabolism. And so if we're doing fasting and doing all those things like starving ourselves, training, strength training in particular on an empty stomach, we're going to find it's really hard to build muscle because it's already really hard to build muscle. We're actually going against nature trying to build muscle at this stage in life because what's happening is we're losing muscle at a rate of 1% per year. The number 2 reason that intermittent fasting may not be working for you anymore is your calories are literally too low. So when you were doing things like extreme fasting in particular, it may be even difficult to get as much as 1,000 calories per day. And so what's going to happen if you're on really low calories? First of all, your body is going to adjust to those calories. And secondly, you're going to end up losing muscle mass. So as well as losing muscle mass because you're over 40, if your calories are too low, because you're just consuming food in a really small eating window and it's hard to get your calories in, you will find you will lose muscle mass because you're just consuming really, really low calories to be able to retain your muscle mass. And that's what's happened with a lot of women that I've come across that have actually personally come to me for coaching, is they found through an intermittent fasting protocol, they've actually lost weight and then it stopped working because they've lost so much muscle mass. And that means their metabolism has taken a nosedive. Another reason why it might have stopped working or it doesn't work for you, and I certainly found this, is when you actually get to eat, you may be over consuming on food. So it's kind of the opposite of what I said. You can risk under consuming food, but you can also risk over consuming food. So I'm one of those people, if I go too long in between meals, what happens when I actually have a meal is I just really want to stuff my face and I don't know when to stop. I find it really hard to stop. So if you're that kind of person, it's probably not the right protocol for you. The final reason why it might have stopped working is some women around the time of menopause, they can actually experience raised cortisol levels because they're experiencing really extreme hunger. And I was one of these. I just sort of find it a bit stressful going without food for long periods of time. And actually looking back on why, I was doing an awful lot of training. And so, you get really, really hungry, but I wasn't able to satisfy my hunger. And what can happen is then you get raised cortisol levels, and that really impacts on all your other hormones, your female hormones, which, by the way, they're already all over the place. So for some people, that's why they experience actually it doesn't work, or it did work, but it's no longer working anymore. So what can you do about it? Well, the first thing to do when you're intermittent fasting is you need to ensure you're having the correct protein intake. So take in 1 gram of protein per pound in your body weight. So that might mean extending your eating window for a bit longer to be able to consume that. Now, if you weigh over 170 pounds, because it's based on lean body mass, and as a female, you probably, if you weigh over 170 pounds, you're gonna have less lean body mass. Just shoot for your goal body weight. Shoot for your goal body weight in grams of protein, and you want to be eating, so if you're a 150 pound woman, which is about 70 odd kilos, you want to be eating 150 grams of protein per day. The other one, which sounds like a sort of obvious one, is you may want to quit fasting altogether in order to take in that gram of protein per pound in body weight. or you reduce the number of days you're fasting. So if you're strength training, and obviously you want to be eating before and after strength training. So if you're strength training, you do a normal day's worth of eating, and then you just reserve the fasting for the days that you're not strength training, and that would be a really good option. And thirdly, and this is like really important, do not do strength training on an empty stomach like I did. So I was kind of going and working out early in the morning on an empty stomach, and then not eating until the afternoon or lunchtime, that kind of thing. And what you will find if you do that is you've missed that opportunity to fuel your body correctly eating before strength training, but you've also missed that opportunity to get your protein synthesis by consuming protein and hopefully carbohydrate directly after strength training. So you want to start incorporating that. So it might mean you have to move your workout to a different time of day, or you have to change your eating window. So that's what I would recommend. So those are the 3 things that I would recommend you implement if it's not working for you. But you know what? If it's not working, why do it? You might as well quit it altogether like I did, and I got amazing results once I'd quit intermittent fasting. So the key takeaway message for you is it's not important when you eat. What's really important is what you eat. So that's getting your protein in. That's not starving yourself around your training schedule times. And I do have a free nutrition guide that you can download today. It's 29 pages. It's really thorough, and I get fantastic feedback about this nutrition guide. You know, I'm sure a lot of people would be happy to pay for it, but I really feel passionately about people being able to access information that's actually free for them at this stage in life, because there's so much misinformation. So let me know in the comments section what your experience is of intermittent fasting, whether it's good, you know, maybe you've seen fantastic results and you have been able to build muscle on it, or whether it's not so good like me, where you really didn't experience a great result from it. And let me know what you think.